Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the last Talky Taka podcast episode of the season. We had the final of the Champions League yesterday night. As you can see, most of us are pumped excited about talking about this game. We really enjoyed it, and it was such a great sporting pinnacle of Manchester City's homegrown talents when they lifted that trophy. It was such an amazing sight to watch for all of football. A fairy tale story finally coming to fruition. The Davids have finally beaten the Goliaths, and now they're at the top of the pile. Introducing the panel today, you can see Radhaji, you can see RK, you can see Ashwin, you can also see a dartboard which has suddenly been replaced by Ab, who is making his triumphant return. A team in blue has lifted a cup and he's back. So, getting into the talky moments, guys, I don't think we have much of talky moments to talk about for the week. So, let's talk about your talky moment of the entire season. What was it that caught your fancy during this whirlwind of a season, which had a football World Cup right in the middle of the season as well? So, I mean, I'll just go by what I see from on my screen. Radhaji, go first.
I think I'll go with the World Cup and that World Cup final. It I've never been so heavily involved and so heavily excited by an international tournament like I was. Maybe it helped that it happened in the middle of the season and we weren't kind of done with football in the way that we usually are when these international tournaments come around. And the players were probably at the peak of their fitness and peak of their sharpness during that World Cup. The quality of that World Cup was through the roof. And that final to cap it all off. I think that's going to be my talky moment of the season. But from a Premier League context, I think in a terrible season where we had absolutely very little to write home about, that 7-0 against United is something, one small ray of hope. Not hope, but a small ray of sunshine in this otherwise very dark season. So, yeah, the World Cup is my talky moment, but as a little bit of a cheat, my option two is the United 7-0.
See, Senor, I hear you, and I'm going to give it to RK next to respond to that.
I think we have talked about the 7-0 quite a lot. So I appreciate why Rana would add it as one of his moments of the season. If I was on the other boat, I would also have done the same. So, but my talky moment of the season, I have two actually. So bear with me on that. It also has partially to do with Liverpool, but it has more to do with how Ten Hag molded the side in the wake of two very bad defeats at, at the start of the season. So my first talking moment of the season is where Ten Hag kind of reassembled his team, made them do the hard yards, and did it with them, like in terms of running that 11, 12 kilometers, and giving that kind of a direct kind of a punishment, and laying down the law, and followed by the Old Trafford match against Liverpool, which was kind of like almost reaching a do or die situation in terms of team morale, and being able to turn it around against Liverpool in that game, and then the season kind of jump started. So that was very very significant moment. I would say the most significant moment of United season, where everything was on a precipice, and Ten Hag was able to turn it around with with force of discipline and personality. So that is the first moment of the season. Second moment of my season is also to do with the World Cup. At the start of the tournament, I wasn't very invested by the whole, Messi should win the World Cup storyline. But the more I saw him play and the more I saw Argentina, start with a bad defeat and then start to turn it around game after game, I really became, very invested in the whole Messi story, especially once Brazil got knocked out. And like the day of the final is the only time I think in the last like 7 to 8 months where I have been to a temple. So that's a bit of a funny side story where I went to the temple and I prayed for Messi to win. So Messi winning that final and the way the final played out, like a proper boxing match, going to the last minute penalties, that was, I think, it was the defining moment of the football season.
Okay, so you prayed for Messi, but you didn't pray for United in the FA Cup final. Figures. Ashwin, what's it going to be for you? Did you end up praying for Messi as well in Qatar?
Uh, no, well, I didn't go to a temple for sure, but of course for me, uh, going to the World Cup in Qatar was like it was an unbelievable experience for me. I think for any football fan just going to a tournament like that. I remember I was in this place called Souk Waqif in Doha, and there were so many Argentine fans over there, and they were all singing and like drinking and dancing, and they were like, literally had so many Messi banners out there. So the fact that Messi finally won the World Cup this time around it has to be my talking moment of the season. Um, I think before the World Cup, or there were this always this tussle between Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi fans. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that I respect them both equally, but Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo fans always said that Messi does not have, that international level trophy that Cristiano does have. And the fact that he did win the World Cup, and he cemented his place as the greatest player of all time. I think that for me is like it has to be the talking moment.
So just clarifying, Ashwin, like people on the streets of Doha celebrating and drinking, we meant buttermilk, right? Like what was flowing down the streets of Doha?
There are areas where you could drink, so it's absolutely fine. Like I know, there was a certain image painted about Doha. It's not England for sure, but like it was fun. Like it wasn't buttermilk.
And finally, coming to the returning podcaster, Ab. Sir, you've been missing ever since Potter got sacked. I heard you were heartbroken with his departure. What's it been for you, and what's your talking moment of the season?
First of all, who's Potter? I don't remember ever hearing a name like that. Does such a person exist? I only know Harry Potter. Um, yeah, in all seriousness, though, coming to the season, I think my talking moment, it has to be City winning the treble. Obviously, it's been a crazy 11 months or 12 months. I cannot even remember when the season started. I remember feeling somewhat hopeful then about things. At least the World Cup was nice, but it has to be for me City winning the treble. I think the one thing that United fans have always had one up is that 99 season, and now City have made all of that look pretty simple. Although of course it's not simple for any team to do it. So it has to be City. The holy grail of the Champions League has finally come to Pep in Manchester. I hope this means that he f's off, but I doubt it.
That's all we can do, right? We can hope that he decides it's enough. I've done all I needed to do, and he goes. But knowing him, he'll probably want to win the quadruple next season, and he's probably still cursing Nathan Jones about it. Right. For me, I think it was when I was in Barcelona during the Spain Morocco game, and after Morocco won, the Moroccan fans basically took over the town square, and it was a big party. I mean, we've been watching football for ages now, but um, in India, we've never had any skin in the game when the World Cups came around, despite the fandoms. And it was really nice to see a country who actually did something nice and unexpected, and their fans basically celebrating that. So that was fun. Nothing from the Premier League. Sorry, as Ab says, I don't think that season ever happened. So I'm just counting that as a moot point. Right. So as Ab said, there was a treble done by Man City. I don't think we have too much of an interest in talking about the Champions League final that happened yesterday, but let's just do a quick wrap before we get into reviewing the season in detail. De Bruyne went off injured again in the first half, and at that point I thought, oh, maybe something is happening. It was halftime, it was nil-nil. It wasn't as one-sided at all. Probably Inter shaded it a bit in terms of opportunities. Unfortunately, they were playing with 10 men, and Lukaku was playing for the other team, forgetting where he was and stepping in ways of the shots of his teammates, and hitting direct balls at Ederson's legs, basically acting as agent Lukaku, unfortunately for Inter Milan. But it wasn't as lopsided as we had feared it would be. I would say that probably they took it to City more than United did. I don't know if you guys would agree.
I think it was for me. It wasn't that much of okay, this team looks like they're playing amazing football and they should win this game. I feel like City was in second gear or third gear for a lot of time. May probably were nervous, probably like they were, I think, even in the FA Cup final, maybe not nervous, but definitely not at their game. Um, they pressed well. I think Inter were really aggressive with the press and they were causing a lot of stress for Man City, who made a lot of mistakes, which is again why I go back to the very nervous start. And there was a period of time where the ball kept going back and it kept going to Edison, and Edison played a few passes astray. And there was a lot of talking, and there was a close up of Pep Guardiola, and he's just saying, "Relax, relax, calm down." So there was definitely a bit of jitteriness in Man City's boots, but I don't think that Inter played at a level that you would think, oh, okay, they're better than Man City here. I think it was just a matter, for me at least, it was a matter of time until Man City just got their way back into the game. I don't think they ever did actually. They operated for the entire game at that very below par level, but at the end of the day, a goal from an unlikely source is just typical Man City. They got the job done over the line, and then at the end, Lukaku Ah, I was actually hoping for a redemption story with Lukaku maybe scoring in this game, trying to make up for that terrible run of misses that he had in the World Cup. He had what a chance he had. One, he blocked somebody else trying to shoot almost at an open goal, and second, he headed it straight into the keeper's hands with the whole goal looking. So yeah, I think in the end, I'm not. Yeah, City probably Inter probably shaded it, but they didn't look like a team that was significantly better than probably on the night they were. But
Yeah, I
then you
thought
know what Man City
Inter
is.
took a lot of the things which United did last week. I'm not sure if they did it better, because you also have to consider the game state. Inter for large parts of the game were battling at 0-0, whereas I think City got off to a great start in the FA Cup final, and United were always trying to counter that and and fight against that. So whatever United demonstrated, I think was coming up against a more difficult situation than Inter did. But having said that, Inter, if you look at the pressing shape and how they tried to stop the pass into the pivots, stop them passing through midfield, and trying to force them wide, and then trying to press them out there. So a lot of those things were taken directly from the FA Cup final. I thought maybe Inter already knew it. It was not something which was a like necessarily an invention by Ten Hag or something, but it's pretty much common sense. But the tactics were similar. Uh, I thought Inter were not that good on the ball. A lot of their transition moments and how they tried to basically spring the counters were all too predictable for me. They always tried to go through one of the fullback channels all the time almost, and which City were able to easily stop. I thought compared to the FA Cup final. However, the main difference from the FA Cup final was how City completely lost control after scoring the goal. That was very unlike City, and Inter had their best chances after going down 1-0. And yeah, that's where the Lukaku story comes in. And like once he came in the way of a goal bound shot, and I still can't believe how he missed that sitter, on the header. Like it was much easier to score than what he ended up doing, which was direct his header at the feet of Ederson. I don't think Ederson knew anything about that. And again, I said this in the FA Cup final, and I said it again, and I say it again now. Both these finals should have gone into extra time at the very least, and probably both the teams, Manchester United and Inter Milan, should have actually shaded the contest. So I don't think City played that well, but I think Baby has different views on that.
Yeah, so see, listen, it was a really cagey affair, right? And I mean, like the Champions League final at the end of such a long season uh, can be a cagey final. And I think the last few finals have just shown us that, winning 1-0 is not like is probably good enough to win the Champions League. So if City weren't at their very best, agreed, they had lesser XG, uh, primarily because Lukaku had those gilt edge misses and chances. There was a and the chances that City had, the one that Foden, I think Foden had a really good chance, or at least he had a decent enough chance to make it 2-0. But like those chances were still, you know, far and few between. So City weren't at their very best. You could say that there were nerves kicking in. You could blame it on the humidity in Istanbul, like you could blame it on anything. But then at the end of the day, they did enough to win the final. And I mean, to win the treble, you need to have such games, right? When United won the treble as well in 1999, they had a few games where they weren't the best team out there, but they still won it. So I think fair play to City for doing that. As far as Lukaku is concerned, I mean, I think even after leaving United, he is haunting us, I feel, because like the ma- I mean, he got on the way of a clear goal and then the headed shot. It was like Ederson did not even know that, you know, like that he had saved it. Like, I mean, had he gone like even an inch or two to his left or right, that would have been 1-1, and then you don't know what where the game could have progressed from there. Uh, I was a bit surprised with Kyle Walker not starting uh, at the beginning of the game. Pep Guardiola mentioned that it was a tactical switch. He did not. I know Kyle Walker was not fully fit, but Pep did say that it was a tactical thing. Although I do feel that Ake did a good enough job there. I think shout out to Brozovic and Barella as well. They had really good games. Uh, so as an Inter fan, I would be gutted that at least this game did not go into extra time. I think the XG stats are out there to prove that Inter could have won it as well. But then, yeah, I would retain my or reiterate my opinion that City did enough to win, and they have the treble now.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Ashwin. Like when it comes to finals, like all other forms of analysis or the typical analysis that we would do of a league game, all of that doesn't apply so much for me. I think you need to do what you need to do to win it. I can understand why City are a little nervous. Um, they only made it to one final before this where they've lost. So if they can't immediately come and execute all of their patterns of play, which I'm sure they've practiced a million times, you can understand that given the situation. And I think we should also give credit to Inter. Uh, they are they may not be Italian champions anymore, but they are still a very good team. So they made themselves hard to beat. So I think I personally expected Inter to come out and do what Chelsea did against Bayern Munich, basically defend, and try to get a corner or something and score. Um, and maybe Pep also expected that, but I think Inzaghi had other plans. So I think Inter gave a good account of themselves, and yeah, we did it. This argument of doing enough to win all that is okay. It's a good argument on paper, but you won a final means you won a final, and they have a treble now. So I don't think any of us can say anything about that.
I just think that Lukaku needs some therapy now after the season he's had, considering the the Belgium game at the World Cup where he refused to uh, score even if the ball was given to him on the goal line and he was expected to just touch it in and coming in the way of the goal's hair in and stopping his team from scoring rather than scoring himself. Yeah, definitely not the
Ca-
redemption story he wanted.
Can I just say that there was this moment in the game when Martinez could have passed the ball to Lukaku, right? And then he chose to he chose to go for the goal, right? But knowing that it's Lukaku, he would have fucking missed it as well. He would have missed that happen. Like I'm so convinced that he was playing for City and not Inter yesterday.
So, Brandon Williams is trending today because he apparently went on an Instagram rant after the final yesterday. He's taken on Rio Ferdinand about how are you, why are you calling them winners and you're two-faced, etc., etc. And this is shitty. City have sloppy seconds. This is not the first treble. So he's basically being a proper keyboard fan while being a player of at one of the affected clubs, if I can say so. But he's trending quite a lot today, so you guys might see him in the Twitter timelines later today.
I mean, part of me does not disagree with him, but also like I mean, like City deserve it, man. Like, and I think that finally deserves it as well. Like he the he's just transformed the city team as well. Like some of the tactical changes that he made mid-season, like John Stones is fucking playing like Xavi Hernandez or something. That's like you can't discount that. And like and the improvement that he's brought on Jack Grealish as well from his first season to his second. Like, I mean, you have to give it to him. Uh, I mean, I can only hope that UEFA or someone open up proceedings against City again, and they're stripped of all their titles. But
That goes against real common sense, that if they didn't have Guardiola, and if they didn't have such a thoughtful policy of building a team which suits Guardiola, then this whole thing wouldn't have happened. So in that sense, in terms of Pep Guardiola and what he has done for Man City, they definitely deserve the treble. However, at the same time, I hope that whatever has come out about them between 2009 to 2018, violating all kinds of rules, breaking FFP, it has to get punished. I know it won't be punished, but I just hope that City gets some kind of punishment because of that. It's finally about breaking the rules, right? I mean, you can be owned by a Saudi or a Qatari state or a Emirate state, but finally the allegations against City are not that they are owned by Emirates, it's that they have broken the rules.
yeah, exactly. So that's what, like, I agree with you on that. Like, innocent until proven guilty. So I mean, if they are found guilty, and if so, the action should be taken against them for sure. But as it stands, they're not guilty. So there's that.
No, let's not even like Ashwin said something like, if they are guilty, I'm sorry. Like let's not even entertain that notion that we've seen the emails, we've seen everything that there is to see. Now their legal argument is different from what we've already seen the emails where they've talked about managing the excess funding through internally and all of that. And the only reason that was apparently deemed impermissible in court, they weren't saying that they have not done it. It's just that the evidence was impermissible. So I mean, let's not even like get into the thing of whether they're guilty or not guilty. But yeah, I agree that you shouldn't take away from the fact that on the field they have been extremely efficient, not just on the field. I think what they've done for the city of Manchester, the area around, I think that's a template, and the Saudis should just absolutely close their eyes and rip off this template completely for Newcastle. I don't think there's any. I don't think it can get better than how City have gone about doing this job. And they didn't go too fast too soon. They didn't go too far too soon. So they started pretty slowly. They picked around talent in the Premier League first year, Hockey Santa Cruz, Adebayors, Tevez. They got some of these players to take them up a couple of levels, and then they started investing in true elite players around the world. And it's been an amazing process. So yeah, they deserve the success that they've got for what they've done on the field with Pep and with the team. And there's no doubt that they are the best team in England and probably in the world. I'm actually scared now for what this means for their seasons going forward. I think they'll end up becoming, now that they've got this off their back, they'll end up becoming like a Real Madrid kind of situation where now they know that they can win in the crux. Pep has the monkey off his back as well. They have the squad and the team to do it for them. I think they're going to win this at least another two times in the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, we shall see. And I think on that note, let's move on from the Champions League final. No one wanted to discuss. As a review of the season that just we just had, we have a few things to ask, like player of the season, team of the season, etc., etc. So since we're talking about City quite a lot and that how they're this big, huge team, let's start off with your picks for team of the season. RK, you want to start us off for?
Team which wrote the best narratives and which occupied our mind space for the most part. So from that perspective, I go for Arsenal. Arsenal, despite the way that they ended the season, I think like no one expected them to be challenging for the title. It was again expected to be whether they can qualify for the top four or not. But the way that they played, the points that they accumulated by the halfway mark, and how good they looked to finally break that entire drought that they had, and and then that final collapse at the end of the season. So I think the best story of the season was written by Arsenal in like on both the counts. And also having a manager who has played for them in the past, a model that has failed with Lampard and with Solskjaer, but Arteta getting success out of it, and then building a very like building a young team with a lot of academy graduates, and also buying young players who a lot of people said that are not the right players for Arsenal. So from all those aspects, I think Arsenal wrote the best story for at least from a neutral perspective. Like from an Arsenal perspective, it would have ended with Arsenal winning the league, but I still take Arsenal as the team of the season for me.
Anyone thinking that the team that won the treble is the team of the season?
I mean, if you win the treble, man, you are the team of the season. Like there's no debate on that. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with RK as well that Arsenal. Uh, I would say Arsenal are probably the surprise of the season for me rather than the team of the season. But you can I think Brighton also make a good shout there. I wasn't expecting Brighton to be anywhere close to the Europa spots. But yeah, it's City for me.
I mean, you can write all the narratives you want, but you know, see, Arsenal fans are always ambitious, even if their club has sometimes not always been that way. So even I don't think Arsenal fans would really argue that their team is a team of the season. It has to be City. I mean, treble is just like peak of football, peak of club football. So yeah, it has to be City. It like can't be someone who finished second. Come on.
Radha, we have a different take, right? I think the deserving winners from Brighton take our fancy for team of the season because the way they kept coming back despite not getting their just deserves. I mean, they had a season of building, then Potter went, then all those players went, then even their staff was taken away by Chelsea, and yet they kept coming back.
So I think a lot of my season review stuff is influenced by some of the things you said, Swag. The season that Brighton have had, the churn that they've had through the season, getting their entire management team ripped out, and still maintaining a pretty great season. So yeah, Brighton are my team of the year for sure. I think they're operating at a really elite level offensively right now. So if you look at the XG that different teams have generated this season, Brighton is actually higher than Arsenal. So they've generated 78 XG this year, and Arsenal are 77. That's a 29 goal turnaround season over season. They were 29 goals lower last season, and now they're operating at a Liverpool and Man City level over the last 5 years this season. They continue to score less than their XG. That has been a trend that we've seen for the last so many years. But such a turnaround is just it's unprecedented. I've not seen it's I think Arsenal have improved as well. They're operating at 14 goals better than they were last season, but 29 is through the roof. And that's one of the reasons why they're actually were in the reckoning for the top four as a dark horse, albeit they've not improved much defensively, but offensively they've gone through the roof. And with two different managers and managing that churn through the season, I think that really warrants some credit. Obviously, City winning everything and all that, but for me, it's also a measure of this is also the performance versus expectations part, and that definitely for me, Brighton is way over the top versus any other team. Arsenal were the closest competitors for me, but I just picked Brighton because I thought what they've achieved is actually much more unlikely than any of the other teams.
On a related note, manager of the season, I'll fly the flag of Bournemouth's Gary O'Neill because considering they were expected to finish absolute at the bottom of the pile and surviving with 5 or 6 games to go, I think that in itself was an achievement for me. So I'll take Gary O'Neill as manager of the season, but other opinions are welcome.
Go for Roberto De Zerbi for kind of the reasons that you guys mentioned. but also from a tactical point of view, I think like Deserby has been a breath of fresh air. The kind of things that he has tried to implement in building from the back is something that Guardiola has also tried to make as a part of his game, especially trying to pull the press. What struck me the best about De Zerbi was how he tries to, trap uh, teams into pressing high and then play through them. That is something which a lot of teams have tried to learn from. And for that reason, you guys already talked about how he's dealt with turmoil and how he's reshaped the team, made it more attacking. But the whole tactical freshness and the approach that De Zerbi has brought to the Premier League, for that he's the manager of the season for me.
I mean, for me, it's again, Pep. I'm sounding a bit predictable right now, but like, it's a big achievement, man. Like to get a treble, uh, to win a treble. Sorry, especially in a season which has been so long with the World Cup in between as well. I know he got the Haaland cheat code. I mean, I'm not ashamed of saying that. Like, I love Pep. I just hate the fact that he's joined a rival club. Um, so I mean, he deserves the credit. I think he struggled in his first few seasons at City, which is absolutely fine. I think Jurgen Klopp is another one that I really respect, and he struggled in his first few seasons.
I just spoke about how it doesn't matter who finishes second, and the team which won the title should be the team of the season. I'm going to go against that logic for manager of the season. I think, and that's only because we are so used to saying that's Pep. It's always Pep. I feel I'll go for Eddie Howe. I think obviously halfway through last year, Newcastle got taken over. Everyone expected some 600, 700 million pounds to be splashed, but who's the manager who's going to sort of take charge of using that money wisely? I don't think too many people would have said that is going to be Eddie Howe. They've spent very wisely. Isaac, Gimaresh, all very, very good fits into their team, and they've been excellently managed by Eddie Howe. They've finished in the top four, of course. In the end, they've ended up finishing comfortably in the top four, and they've completely looked apart. They look like they're going to be a constant fixture in the top four now, right? So there's and Eddie Howe is looking like a top four Champions League manager, right? So I think he's gone up a level, right, from relegating Bournemouth, and then of course I think he went to Fulham after that, and now he's here. I think he's Eddie Howe has to be the for me at least the manager of the season when I sort of stop looking at who won all the trophies. But I think it has to be Eddie Howe.
I agree with most of what you said up, but I'm not sure that they will be able to replicate this again next season.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens next season, considering they've not had any European football with this squad. They will obviously reinforce in the summer, but it'll be interesting to see how that pressure and expectation now they will have that expectation. They didn't have that much expectation this season, so it'll be fun to see how that happens.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised our Everton fan over here hasn't mentioned Sir David Moyes at all. Rather, what do you think, David Moyes for manager of the season?
I think he had a pretty shit season, if you're being honest. Like they were very, he was as close to getting the sack as any manager was this season. So yeah, I think like this for me overall, the entire season has been a bit of a freak, which is why I agree with RK. I'm not so sure about Newcastle keeping their place in the top four. Obviously, they'll have the money to back the manager, but if you just go through some of the performances of a lot of the top teams, Liverpool, even City and Chelsea, their drop off versus last season is quite stark. And the teams that have actually freakishly picked up have taken their places in their top four, like Arsenal, Brighton. So I don't know whether you'll see some of these underperformance happening again. West Ham, honestly, I thought he was pretty bad, but yeah, win a trophy at the end of the season, you always should be there in the reckoning. But no chance. I agree with RK and Ab. For me, it was Deserby, and a close second was Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I think West Ham fans are calling for Moyes as their greatest ever manager, considering he's won them a European trophy. So, yeah, that's probably the standards that they're looking at. But fair enough, he did what he was expected to do. He kept them in the league and he won them a trophy, and they'll be in Europe next season, which is more than we can say for a few big clubs in the league. Okay, player of the season. I don't want to hear about Haaland, even though he is my player of the season as well. Anyone who doesn't have Haaland as their player of the season, do you want to have a go?
I'm gonna go for Odegaard. I think he had an absolutely incredible season. I remember when he was signed for Madrid, and he came with all this fanfare, didn't live up to it, and then he was signed by Arsenal, and I was like, okay, maybe Arsenal are getting a, a player who was super hyped but not the end product. But yeah, he stepped up quite a bit, like in the partnership that he developed with Martinelli, Saka. It was just great. He got me a lot of FPL points, which I appreciate as well. I think, yeah, if it's not Haaland, I think Odegaard would be the player.
So actually, that's a little bit of again a little bit of cheating on my part because I have Haaland in a different section. So I chose this section to be the if not Haaland, who else kind of discussion. So yeah, De Bruyne for me. I think not so much for his output. I think he's had great seasons in the past as well. But for me, looking at De Bruyne play this season, I feel like he's lost his legs, and he's probably operating at half the pace that he used to have, and he was quite a quite a spark in the run and running past defenders and getting in behind and really dominating in so many ways, including physically. I think that physical aspect is completely gone out of his game, and he's still dominating the league. That part is just like that really took me by surprise this season. When the season started and I saw the way De Bruyne was playing and him not having that burst of pace anymore, I thought, okay, this is the start of a decline that we're going to see. Uh, but no, I think in all the big games, he came up big. He still controls the pulse of that team, regardless of having amazing players all around him. Everything still seems to go by him. And I feel like yesterday when he limped off in the Champions League final, there was a feeling that, okay, is this going to happen again? He's that important for the best team in the world. So, yeah, for me, he's the player of the season. 16 assists, no joke. I think like he's had such seasons in the past, but for me, he's lesser of a player now physically. So to still be doing it, that's what makes him the player of the season for me.
Okay. Uh, in terms of signing of the season, I think let's give the boy his due. It's Haaland for three of us.
Yeah, I'll sort of pivot my opinion like this. I remember us discussing in an episode not too long ago, and so I kind of also feel that because I've missed a few episodes. I remember us discussing how or the ways in which Haaland could have possibly made City weaker. It wasn't too long ago that we discussed that. At that point, I think City were maybe around 6 or 7 or 8 points behind Arsenal. Um, they had, I think, drawn a couple of games. They had drawn a blank in 1 or 2 games. And we were talking about how their natural flowing football could have been impeded by buying this kind of a target man who needs to be fed all the time. And then just the way City have sort of made us all look like idiots for even thinking that. Um, I know I'm praising City more than I'm praising Haaland, but the guy just fits like a glove into the team right now. So, and he's just gonna score, man. He's by the time he's done in England, this guy will have, I don't know, he's gonna have 200 and 250 goals, right? And it's scary what he can do. It's scary what he has already done. And but yeah, it has to be Haaland. Dude. It's like anybody who comes in here and scores at the level at which Ronaldo used to score and at the level at which Salah has been scoring recently has to be my player of the season or the signing of the season.
You know,
Not to mention that you forget he came from a farmers league. Don't forget.
that is the reason why I kept Haaland as the player of the season as well, not because of just the numbers and he scored so many goals and how he helped City. So like people think of it as obvious that okay, Haaland comes in, scores. Anyone who comes in and scores 40, 50 goals, the team is getting a natural advantage. It was not like that for a large part of the season. I feel what Hub referred to, and we were right at the start of Feb in saying that City at that point were a weaker team with Haaland than they were without him, and that is how they were actually playing. But I remember us also discussing that that we trust Pep to kind of find the right formula in some way or the other, and that happened from March onwards. And once Pep found that formula by pushing Stones up, creating that old box midfield that he likes, I think it completely changed. So I mean, and that is the major reason why Haaland is the player of the season for me, because it wasn't as easy as people thought it was to fit him into the team.
Yeah, okay, but in terms of signing of the season, you don't think he's the best signing of the season, right? Both the United boys have gone for someone else, someone not named Haaland, and someone
Yeah,
from the right
I
side of
took.
Manchester.
So I knew that
Hello, we
Ashwin
have
will take Casemiro, so that's why
we
I went for Lisandro. The logic behind not selecting Haaland as the signing of the season was just that I approached it in terms of something which was probably not the most expected. So Haaland, every single team in the Premier League, if they had the resources, would have wanted to get Haaland. So in terms of making the signing in itself, it was pretty obvious. But I think United, took a slightly left field approach by getting Lisandro Martinez. There was a lot of criticism of how he will be able to cope with the Premier League, especially from a certain very special analyst, Jamie Carragher. So after that, turning that around and showing that he, like a player like him, can also fit naturally into the Premier League, and what all he's brought to United in terms of playing out from the back and the tenaciousness that he brings in. He's the signing of the season for me.
For me, it is Casemiro, and of course, I could have gone with Haaland as well, but like Casemiro for me just up leveled the United midfield in a way. You can see the difference in how United play when he is missing, and there are a few games that he missed during the season. I think the fact that David De Gea would probably end up with the most clean sheets is because of the invisible work that Casemiro does. He intercepts so many passes, and I think he makes other people around him look good as well. He chipped in with a few goals. I remember the goal against Chelsea, and the passion and the energy that he brings into the team is just it's just unrivaled. So for me, like he's the kind of midfielder that we had been crying out for so long. So yeah, for me, he's the signing of the season.
Yeah, see, I think Casemiro was my number two for sure. Um, as good as Martinez has been for me, the transformational signing for me for United has been Casemiro. Um, if if Martinez doesn't play, I still think that United are a much better team now with Casemiro on the pitch. However, if the reverse was true, if Martinez was playing and if Casemiro was missing, I think they will still be a little questionable at times. So, I mean, I don't know, we were all a bit surprised when the signing happened. Is he like, it, is something happened? Is he physically not there yet? Is he just coming for the money? We all had a lot of doubts when we were talking about him in the beginning of the season. But he's come in and absolutely brought in the champions mentality and shown that he has not changed anything. I think Real Madrid going and signing all those young players, that's made the decision for him, and he wanted to go somewhere else where he felt more valued. But for, I mean, a nice discussion to have of all these players. But Haaland, man, like it's hard to look past that guy for
As
me.
we go about praising Haaland no end, it's important to remember that he didn't score against Chelsea this season. Just keep that in mind. So there is a formula, guys. You just have to learn it from us.
I remember correctly, Messi didn't score against Chelsea till like 2 years or 3 years back. So if you want to be known as one of the greats of football, don't score against Chelsea, please.
Yeah, I'll take the third spot over that 13th spot that you got. So
Were we 13th, 14th? I don't know. I think Ab cancelled the season, so even I stopped looking at the table. But anyway, now the fun questions start. Who was on that note? Who was the disappointment of the season for you? Uh, I can say that I really was sad about Graham Potter not working. Not just because this was at Chelsea, but I felt like this was one of those rare opportunities given to a youngish English coach who has done his time at the lower levels at smaller teams and then stepping up rather than getting a superstar manager from a different league. So I'm really sad that that didn't work out, and obviously also because that affected my team. in terms of the standings.
Yeah. On that note, since you're on that topic, I'll jump in. I think for me, obviously Potter was disappointing. A whole bunch of things happened this season that were disappointing, but the root cause of this are really all that stemmed from very bad management and ownership of Chelsea. I think the owners have had as bad a first year as you can get of owning a club as it gets. Um, so that's been the most disappointing because these are owners who are actually used to owning sports franchises. They own the LA Dodgers, and they've been known to manage all of that well. I think it became a classic Ted Lasso situation where, oh, just because you think you know how American sport works, don't come here and think that you understand how English football works. And while Ted Lasso has done fairly well, these guys have not. So Todd Bowley, Ekbali, that ownership group. I know Bowley is the face of it, but he's not the sole decision maker there. I think they've completely screwed up a lot of things that were going well at Chelsea, and now they're hoping to hit the reset button. Let's see how all of that plays out.
It was unfortunately Cristiano Ronaldo and the interview that he did with fucking Piers Morgan of all people, like that dickhead. Anyway, I mean, like it seems like almost 2 seasons ago now, but of course, he wasn't having the best of seasons, and the fact that he came out and he said some right things in the interview. He called out the Glazers, but that's not new. United fans have been doing that for ages. But then he started making it about himself. He started calling out the legends of the club as well. He made some sly remarks about Wayne Rooney. And, of course, he didn't like playing under Radnick and Berg, and it just made it so much about himself. And I remember this was just before the World Cup, and then I went into the World Cup, of course, supporting Portugal, and I could see like a lot of United fans with their Cristiano Ronaldo T-shirts out there, and it just didn't feel right. And I mean, that was the time, like, I was like, I mean, how can United fans, uh, respect a player over the club? So it felt so wrong for me. So I was really disappointed with that. I think Ronaldo should have stayed on for 1 season and then just left. He, of course, wasn't getting any offers from other European clubs who were willing to pay him as much as the Saudi club did. I think good riddance at the end. I would still remember Ronaldo as this kid who came on from Sporting Lisbon, won us the Champions League, won us all those Premier Leagues as well. But that interview is like a blot in his career and is a blot in my fandom towards me, towards him.
Like the
Sorry.
reason
So
why I didn't
that's
select
the
this whole
disappointment
Ronaldo
of the
episode
season.
in this particular section was because it was not a disappointment for me at all. I was frankly very happy to see that interview come out because I felt we just needed some kind of an opportunity to kick this guy out of the club. He was becoming a proper liability both on the field, off the field. He was creating a headache which Ten Hag didn't need. So when this whole thing, I was thinking of what to put a disappointment. I didn't even think of putting it there because I was genuinely happy that he left. But coming to my disappointment, I think it's about where. Maybe I don't have a right to be disappointed about where as well, seeing how shit it's been all along. But even then, the way that VAR has been implemented, especially with respect to the red cards which Casemiro got, I think it shows how inconsistent the application of VAR is. The same way they apply in some other case, and it's not even a card. Sometimes it's a yellow card, and sometimes it's a red card. I think if fans want to enjoy football more and if results have to go more according to the what's happening on the pitch, I think VAR needs to really scale up. So that's why it's a big disappointment for me the way that VAR is being used across Europe right now.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. I think we all echo with that one. There's a WTC final going on, and there was a bit of VAR nonsense happening in that as well yesterday. My disappointment was actually Spurs, and while they should qualify equally for LOL of the season, which is the next section that we're going to get to, but if you guys recall, we sat here as we went into the World Cup, and we were making predictions on who's going to finish in the top four after the World Cup. And I strongly believe that Spurs was going to be one of the teams that really kicks on. I thought that they have generally Conte teams have the fitness advantage over a lot of teams, and this is a season where I thought fitness would come into play more than others. Also, while there was some churn around Conte's availability and stuff before the season, before the World Cup, after the World Cup, I thought things would settle down. I couldn't have been more wrong. It just blew up in such amazing fashion. And while you talk about that Talk TV interview, I think the Conte interview is just about, it's right up there in terms of blockbusterness. Incredible moment. And I think we all can't stand Daniel Levy. And to see Spurs go up in flames like the way they did was actually quite funny, but also very disappointing. The other big, huge disappointment, more not because it was unjust, but because I really feel sad about it, was Leicester getting relegated. I think that was, I think we all loved that story, that underdog story. Who doesn't? But to see them, and then with that, their owner, all the stuff that happened with their owner and the helicopter crash, and then all of them coming together, it just feels like a very likable club. A lot of good stories in and around that place, but yeah, to see them get relegated was a big disappointment as well.
Yeah. A quick word on the surprise of the season for you guys. I think you and Radha think Arsenal were the surprise of the season.
Be honest, they have a pretty average squad. If you have Nketiah as your backup, if you have Xhaka as a starter, if you have some of the if Reece Nelson coming on as your impact sub, to borrow parlance from another sport, but if you have these kinds of players in your squad and you're still actually pushing the best team that we probably ever seen, a treble winning team, to the last, say, 4 weeks, 3 weeks of the league, I think kudos to them. Definitely a great season for Arsenal. And while they may be disappointed, they are definitely. I'm surprised by how good that they were.
Yeah, same sort of I have to echo what Radha said. So, see, if there was a season for Arsenal to pull up a surprise, I felt it was last year because last year they were in no European competitions at all. Um, so I thought, that's the time when they may shoot for say a third or something like that and really surprise us. But uh, in a year where they were playing in Europa League, I didn't expect them to do as well as they did. Um, uh, there were so many games. Radha also said it briefly, where they look like champions. They needed a last minute goal to win it. They got it. They needed some wonder strike from outside the box to rescue a point. They got it. All of the things that champions have typically got in their favor over the years. So of course, at the end of the day, you're up against a machine like City, but Arsenal, I think they can be happy, even though they'll be disappointed with how the season ended, understandably. But I think they should be happy with their season. Definitely the surprise of the season for me. I didn't rate Arteta as a very good manager. I stand corrected. Um, I think Arsenal definitely look good enough for to sort of retain this top four thing going on even in the future seasons.
I think just because it has been it was a World Cup year. Morocco reaching the semis was like just incredible. They came out of nowhere. I know I would probably not like this, but Hakim Ziyech was performing like Mohamed Salah or something for Morocco. So that was great to see. It's just one of those fairy tale kind of run-ins that you want to see in leagues or any competition. So that's why I've gone with Morocco.
you know like I am always I love the tactics part of the of the game, and in the World Cup again, similar to what Deserbi brought to the Premier League, I thought Morocco brought a very different kind of footballing style, a style which might be kind of in danger in today's especially in the league football or in European football. It's probably tougher to get away with that kind of style, which is why it was very refreshing for me to see the way that Morocco applied, playing a very counter-attacking, very almost you can say a negative style of football. and that shows that at least in tournament football, this kind of style has a resonance, and it still has a relevance. And Morocco did not, like Morocco were not totally negative about that style as well. There were periods in the game where Morocco had a medium to high line as well. It was very, different to see how with a middle block a team is having a pretty high line. So that was one thing, and then even on the counter attack, it was very refreshing to see Ziyech, and how like Morocco were countering through midfield, countering through the wings. So I think like for me, Morocco were the real surprise package. The other team, which is a big surprise for me from the season, is Fulham. If you look at the predictions that like we'll probably come to, I think half of us had put Fulham to be relegated, and probably the other half kind of put them to finish at the bottom 5, 6, and be fighting against relegation. So from that point of view, to see what Fulham did, be comfortably in the top half of the table was a pretty big achievement.
Moving on quickly to the funnest question: what's the lull of the season for you, and what's the goal of the season for you guys? So I think as things go, Chelsea has quite a lot of big claim to be the lull of the season. The way the entire club has functioned, apart from the women's team, which has been functioning as if no takeover ever happened and everything was as is, but apart the men's team, the owners, the managers, the 007 memes about Lampard who had lost the first six of his games, he somehow ended up beating Bournemouth. Otherwise, Bournemouth would have finished above Chelsea as well. But yeah, I think Chelsea for me were the funniest
My
story of the
funny story
season.
of the season, my lol moment is I can't think beyond the Tuchel Conte bust up. It's probably so long back in the season that it's almost beating the memory, because both these men are no longer there in the Premier League. But I think that moment always makes me laugh whenever I think about it. How they had started with shaking hands, and then like probably Tuchel was the one who took offense that Conte isn't looking at him, and then they start fighting. I mean, it was proper blockbuster stuff. It kind of reminds me of the IPL LSG RCB kind of thing as well. But I think uh, as boys we always love these kind of bust ups. So yeah.
Yeah, I also have to pick Graham Potter, who never looked like a Chelsea manager. Uh, I'm not lolling at him. I'm lolling at the decision that led to him taking that, and about how messages came out that no matter what, they're going to stick with him. They're going to give him 2 years. They're thinking long term. Blah 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 blah. And then they realize that they've made one of the dumbest decisions ever, and then they took another decision to try and undo that decision. So I think classic. It's like Abramovich never left. So that for me is one of the funniest things of the season. Funny in a sad way, but funny.
Yeah, I think for me, the low of the season and the goal of the season involves the same guy. So, Richarlison, uh, I think he had a very hit and miss kind of, well, I think more miss than hit kind of a season. Uh, I remember that time when he scored a goal, took off his shirt, got a yellow card, and then the goal was ruled out for VAR. I'm forgetting the team. I think it was against Everton, but like whatever it is. Uh, the one that the one that I found really amusing was that goal against Chelsea. So sorry, against Liverpool. He thinks that he has salvaged the situation for Spurs, and then he's dissing the fans and like uh, you know pumping his fists and all of that, and like really riling in the cop. And then I think it was Jota who scored the winner. So it was like a very funny and like probably one of the most Spursy moment uh, that you could have as well. So that was the goal of the season. The goal of the season is also Richarlison in the World Cup. Like I think I've got this World Cup theme going on, but what I really liked about this goal was the build up, the passing, and the audacious finishing. But also at the end of the goal, or after the goal was the goal went in, the celebration, the pigeon dance, right? It is one of the most cringy dance ever. But to see, the Brazilian team doing the pigeon dance with Richarlison, and then I think even the coach joined in. and made like that. That I mean, that was a really good moment to see as well. So those are my two moments of the season, two LOL and goal moments of the season.
Yeah, I mean, lol of the season. I think it was that Ashwin already talked about it, but that game, the Spurs game, where there was a lot of tension that Klopp had. He was really pissed off with the referees, and then after Jota scores, he goes and celebrates in front of the fourth official who had nothing to do with anything. Pavam guy, but he goes and celebrates in front of him and deservedly got a hamstring strain, and then is clutching his thigh and walking away. I think, yeah, just a hilarious moment from start to finish. Manager going crazy at a referee and then getting instant karma and not being able to walk properly for the next few weeks after that. Yeah, so the Klopp doing his hamstring while celebrating in front of the referee is my lol of the season. Goal of the season, I have a few contenders. From a emotional personal point of view, I think Bobby Firmino scoring in his last game at Anfield definitely has to be right up there for me. From a pure quality perspective, I think the Almiron goal is probably the best goal that I've seen in the season. My one of my favorite goals was the Wout Weghorst equalizer in the World Cup as well, and probably the one that I think all of us loved, and we talked about it in the pod as well, was Vinicius Junior scoring against Atletico, and then all of them doing the dance in front of that Atletico crowd. Some pretty epic moments and goals this season. Yeah, so but if I had to pick one, I think just because it's his last season and he's been a real hero for us and for me as well. So Bobby Firmino's goal in the last Anfield game. Pretty perfect end to a amazing career for him at Anfield. So
For me,
yeah,
the
I'll
goal of
go
the
with that.
season is kind of not the goal itself, but the assist part of it. Alexander Isaac, I think, came with the individual moment or the individual contribution of the season against Everton, where he started, took the ball on the left side of the halfway line, and then he dribbled all the way up, got past 4 to 5 people, showed incredible, feints and skills, and then got to the byline again, got past a couple of people and then squared the ball for, I think it was Murphy to score. I think in terms of individual skill and what Newcastle have as a package in terms of Isaac, he showed all of it with that one assist. So that's the goal of the season for me.
I didn't watch a lot of Premier League football this season, especially towards the end. I did see the Isaac goal, or the Isaac assist goal, which is a fantastic piece of skill. I will go for a goal purely from the wow reaction that I had when it was scored, which is Mbappe's volley. I think to make it 2-2 in the World Cup finals. Everyone is talking about Messi, how he's taking charge of the finals, etc. I think Mbappe just stood up and said, "I'm here too. I need to be counted." Scored, of course, two penalties, and that volley when he scored to make it 2-2, it was just an incredible piece of skill. And to do all of that, to just take the World Cup final and say that I will do this for my team and for my country, I think that was just for me. It was my most wow moment or the most wow goal for me of the season.
It was the penalty that he scored. I mean, consider the added context is that people found it tough to score penalties against Martinez, and he not only scored during the game but also in the shootout, and he was ice cold that game. I know Messi won and he had his own moments of glory during the final, but for me, this will always be the Mbappe final because of all that he did. He single-handedly pulled his team to a penalty shootout when it seemed like they were done for within 90 minutes itself. But anyway, that brings us to the close of these awards or sections or whatever you want to call it. Just to call out the predictions that we made at the beginning of this season, when we talked about the teams that would finish in the top four. Not surprisingly, City featured in all our predictions, as interestingly did Liverpool. We all thought Liverpool would make top four and Radha, that has obviously not come to pass. In fact, Radha, Ashwin, Ab, and RK even thought that they might win, potentially thinking Nunes might be better than Haaland. But those were the days of the Community Shield, I guess. That was the reasoning behind that. Also, interestingly, Chelsea and Spurs feature in the top four predictions. For bottom three as well, I think we had unanimously relegated Bournemouth. I mean, Bournemouth were finishing 20th, apart from Ashwin, who had them finishing 19th in front of Nottingham Forest. But the most amazing and unheard of for everyone else was Radha's pick for Brentford to go down, considering they almost got into Europe.
City had
So
already won it 2 times, and I thought they don't have enough hunger to probably win it a third time, and that's what they have shown in the past. Whereas Liverpool had a great season, and I thought that they would be hungry to go that one extra step. So that's why I picked Liverpool, not the Community Shield.
And listen, nobody at any stage said Darwin Nunes is going to be better than Haaland. In fact, I don't ever want to compare the two. They're two different players, very good. I still think Darwin has a lot of potential ahead of him, but nobody was saying at any stage that he's going to be better than Haaland this season. But anyway, speaking for the predictions, Liverpool top four definitely everybody expected.
yeah,
Bournemouth, Brentford for me was just because of second season syndrome. I think they surprised a lot of teams last season with some of their tactics. I thought that is something that Sheffield United did as well in their first season, and they promptly went down the next season. So I was just expecting a bit of that. I have to say though, I'm going to take credit and points for my prediction of Everton getting relegated. While they didn't get relegated, for me they were the most consistent relegation threatened team of this entire season. Whoever ended up getting relegated probably did it because of Swagat's amazing like relegation predictions in the last 10 weeks of the season. But Everton has been a consistent relegation threat. So yeah, I'm going to take some points for that. Although I got zero relegation predictions right.
yeah. In which case, we'll also have to give DSK and RK points for predicting that Everton would go down as well. Just one line from each of you before we close in terms of what you're looking for the next season while we take a break over the summer period. Radha, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, looking forward to getting some people who can run into the team. At the end of the season, gave me faith that okay, if you train these guys for a week, they're able to turn around the results, finish the season quite strongly. So get a couple of midfielders, maybe three midfielders in who can run and make it difficult for teams to play. I think Liverpool will have a much better season next season. After that, also looking forward to Gakpo. He really surprised me with how quickly he got integrated to that Firmino kind of role. So yeah, very optimistic if we get the right midfielders in.
What do you think about Chelsea?
Yeah, so man, just get some discipline into the team, get the guys running. That's all I want from Pochettino. A lot of deadwood to be shipped. Let's get that shipped out. Um, um, and let's just get going. I don't have too much expectations beyond that. Just hope we get some discipline back into the team. That's it.
Sorry, I would say I can say what I'm not looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to the fucking Glazers being on their perch at at United. But I'm hoping that we have new owners, and if we do have that, I'm hoping that it gets back with the right set of players. I'm hoping for Maguire to potentially leave and join Chelsea or Spurs. That would be great. And, but yeah, I mean, at this point, it is all wishful thinking. So, as far as the things that we do know are concerned, I'm probably looking forward to Vincent Company's Burnley and like Luton Town play in the Premier League. I think those are some really good stories that have come up. So yeah, that'll be that for now.
My wish is that Eric Ten Hag gets back, irrespective of who is in charge this summer. We get those 5 or 6 players in that are needed. It's not about the names, but getting the required quality, and which enables us to start the next season on the right note. Too many times after finishing top four, we have let it kind of pass, and we start the next season the wrong way on the wrong foot completely. So I am just hoping that Ten Hag gets back, irrespective of who is in charge.
hopefully Reece James staying fit for an entire season. But we shall see. For the time being, listeners, that brings us to the end of the first season of the Talky Taka podcast. Thank you very much for being on this journey with us, for listening, for viewing, for giving us your feedback, for the likes and dislikes on YouTube as well, and your comments on Twitter. So, on that note, we shall now take a break. We might reconvene in the middle of the break. We'll see you when the season resumes. And for now, that's it. Thank you very much, and bye bye.